Hello, this is Matt Fox, the host of This Week in Star Wars, and welcome to the second episode of The Conversation Pit, our semi-regular, unscripted, and informal discussion about events in the world of Star Wars. This episode is a discussion that comes live from Orlando, Florida, home of Star Wars Celebration 5. In this episode, I and an illustrious panel of guests from the DC Star Wars Collectors Club are going to discuss what we saw on day one of the convention. First, from the outset, I would like to apologize for the condition of my voice. If this had happened yesterday, it wouldn't have happened because I was totally unable to talk. However, I have recovered some ability to speak, but fortunately, I leave most of the talking to our panel. So, thank you for putting up with this scratchy, intolerable voice, and let's move right on to the Conversation Pit.
As long as everybody behaves, this will be quick and painless.
This is Matt Fox, and we are at Celebration 5 in Orlando. This is Thursday night. We just finished the first day of the convention. I am here with a number of members of the DC Star Wars Collectors Club, and we're going to have a roundtable about what we saw today and what we're looking forward to seeing over the next couple days. Our impressions, thoughts, criticisms, or just generally congratulations to a convention that may or may not have been well run. Everybody's going to have their own opinions. So let's start here with Tim Walsh, and let's introduce ourselves and get started on the roundtable.
I'm Tim.
I'm Bob.
I'm Jeff.
Hi, I'm Pat. I often use Orange Leader online.
Jonathan Bishop, Darth Binkley in various places.
Indy, Mike.
MK.
Frank. Callum.
And I'm Frank, the other Frank. I go by Star Wars Daddy.
Okay, well, we were all there pretty much all day. Some of us were working our booth, some of us were working for the convention, some of us were working for official picks. We saw panels, we saw the exhibit floor, we saw a little bit of everything. Anybody struck with something really exciting? Tim?
This was probably the fourth panel in 3 celebrations I've been to. I went to the Force of the Fets with Jeremy Bullock and Daniel Logan. It was on the celebration stage, hosted by Jay Lagaya. We showed up maybe 45 minutes prior. Was able to get in the front row. I thought it was very entertaining. They showed a lot of clips from their careers that I would have never seen before. So I enjoyed it.
Now, Tamura Morrison backed out.
Yes.
So, were they prepared for that?
No, they did have some clips from like Irvin Kershner, but they did not have a segment from Tim.
Okay. Now, you said you got there, you were in the front row,
Right.
and you were there 45 minutes before it started.
Yeah, I was
there
probably
much of
like
a
20
crowd?
I was about 20 people back. It was in the Chapin Theater, and if you know where that is, eventually, from what I heard, the line wrapped around that, went in and through the catwalk that you can see from the Celebration store. So it got pretty big pretty quick.
Was it full?
No.
No.
No, the Chapin Theater is very big.
Is that where they're going to do the main event? Is anybody know?
I think that's one of the rooms.
That's one of the expansion rooms.
Okay. The expansion room or the actual room where it's happening?
The room.
Oh, is that the room?
That's,
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the celebration stage.
All right. There was some discussion about this earlier, before we went on the air with some of us, but the crowds today did not seem to be too out of control. Everybody.
The
certainly not
The line
overbearing.
management was definitely better than the last ones. When we walked over there at 10 o'clock, they had outside 4 wraparound lines. The only problem was with so many people coming in to get badges, they walked in outside, inside, 4 or 5 wraparounds into a empty room to give the program bags, and then they let people free. But I think overall, most people to get in from start to finish, less than an hour. But as soon as you hit inside the AC, everybody was happy.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. We left the hotel at 9:15, showed up at like 9:35. Walked right off the shuttle into the AC, into the hyperspace queue. Saw Jonathan and Scott Gammon, and we were in by 9:58.
The only place I saw that a line was the problem was the artist alley. They had lines for like a few hours there because they only have one register.
Right.
So
That is.
they were fearing that it was actually turning sales away.
Well, it turned my sales away. I went there 3 times, and each time was I walked out because of the line. So, but
I talked to a few artists that I know in there, and they were having problems where people didn't realize they could walk through the line to get in. So they weren't selling as much because people would see the line and thought it was capped off so they couldn't get in and people couldn't get out. But the difference between the last 2 celebrations is the registers on the inside of the artist area as opposed to having it at the far end where they could do the line management better.
Mm-hmm.
But today being the first day, they had a few problems with the registers, and they were told the artists were told they're going to have it fixed for tomorrow. So hopefully we'll see what happens.
I was one of those people that didn't realize you could actually go in to the artist alley and walk around and see the art that was displayed. I saw this enormous line that seemed to stretch in front of the entrance to the artist alley and was completely turned away. I stopped, turned around, and was walking the other direction. It was only that I actually stopped and watched somebody else go through a line and into the artist alley that I realized that, yes, indeed, you could go in and look around without getting stuck in this line, which I thought was an entrance line, not a checkout line.
now Hasbro, of course, had a long line early in the morning, but it moved. What about the autograph hall? Did anybody go there today? I know.
Carrie Fisher had a line. Anthony James had a line. Ray Park's line never moved for hours, but he's a talker, so
Right.
his line just stayed. But other than that, I mean, there was a line for the metallics early in the morning, but then after the first few hours, lines pretty much.
Disney had a pretty hefty line first thing in the morning, but that was pretty much gone.
But they didn't sell through their product.
They did not sell through their product at large edition sizes on everything.
Oh, go ahead.
The other line that I heard people complaining about was Ashley Eckstein's Ahsoka's line. And the same thing.
When she was signing autographs.
In the autograph hall.
When she's signing autographs, she's a talker. She will definitely take a picture with anybody who wants to. She's a very fan person.
But she's also only scheduled for 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you have to cram all those people who want to get her autograph into a very small time period. And there's only a limited window to line up to begin with.
Yeah, but that's things that they need to address with the actual talent as opposed to the management-wise. They couldn't control that line. But everybody loved it. And nobody complained. People were complaining that they waited in line, but as soon as they met her, they didn't care. Because we had 4 people come back from the booth that were like, oh my God, I just saw her and she was so great. And
No, she's definitely everybody seems to think she's a welcome addition to the community. Anybody hit the store today?
Yeah, that was the first place we hit. There was hardly anybody there. There was no queue. We just walked right in. Product was very disappointing. It was probably my cheapest celebration store ever. I walked away spending $50, and it was basically on impulse buys. Got a better hoodie at Style and Online than the one that they were selling in the store. I did have to go back at like 6 o'clock to pick up my pre-orders because that line, they were not prepared for that, and it was just taking too long. So I figured I already paid for the items. I'll go back, by Sunday. So
Was anything sold out today?
nothing that I noticed, but then again, I wasn't looking for much. So
I think the pre-order badge sets were sold out because they were limited to 250. Somebody said this morning that they were sold out, but it's the same thing we heard last night. So it may have been their allotment for the day has been sold out, but otherwise, anybody that I saw was pretty much in and out, got what they needed except for the pre-orders.
I mean, really, the only things I saw that were severely limited in numbers at the store were the badges and the Metacom Boba Fett
The VCDs.
convention exclusive.
a ton of those today.
Well, I think there's only
$100.
200 of them total, but yeah, they're $100 a pop. But that's it as far as limited numbers go.
My
Products with limited numbers.
My prediction is if anything sells out, it's probably going to be the Wampa.
I've heard good things about the Wampa. I didn't see it when I was at the store.
He's very cool.
What is it? Is it a stuffed animal?
Yeah,
Is it
stuffed animal with the detachable arm.
With red Velcro.
Yep.
Sounds like something from Think Geek.
It could be.
It will be.
Yeah, it probably will be. The only thing, it's a little bit worrying. The arms don't seem very well attached, and when you pull the Velcro, it's like you might pull the whole arm off because it's sewed on really thin. So.
Anybody really surprised by anything today? Anything at all that they saw on the floor?
I didn't like, I don't know, maybe I'm used to the way the previous celebrations are set up, but I didn't like the layout. You had stuff that should have been cordoned off into certain areas. At least I was used to.
Now, let me interrupt. This year, basically, aside from the panels and the presentations, everything is in one huge room.
Right.
The store, the autograph hall, artist alley,
Right.
all the fan clubs, as well as the exhibition hall. It's all in one room, so that's different.
I didn't like that layout.
We don't have the same size as LA or Indy for here because of the sheer volume of what they were expecting. But I know that they tried to set it up so it was easy flow through for people, as opposed to having to go from one room to another room across the convention. That's the reason why they set it up. But I agree with Tim's aspect of the layout could have been different. Like with going to San Diego Comic-Con over the past 4 years, they've changed things around a lot. But some of the stuff, the artist alley being in the center, surrounded by vendors, and putting the autograph hall all the way in the back, or autograph area, they could have kind of positioned it a little bit better. And then putting all the fan clubs, like all of our stuff that we have done, next to vendors. So people are coming up saying, "Oh, is this for sale? How much are you charging for this?" and blah blah blah. Not realizing that we're not vendors with that aspect because they all lumped everything together.
Right, Jonathan.
And even though, you kind of expect that in the vendor areas they're going to be crammed close together. It didn't have to be crammed as close together as it is, because there's dead space over in one corner of this hall, over by where the Belgian fan club brought their phenomenal movie sets and vehicles from overseas, and yet there's a corner of what looks to be bare concrete behind it that could have been used to stretch out a little bit.
And the autograph hall seems to be huge. I just sort of took a glance at it today, but it's big compared to previous years.
I have blisters to prove it.
Well, compared to LA, is it the same size? Or wait, was it Indy that had the huge room by itself? It was Indy that had the huge
Indy
room by
had the
itself.
huge
Yeah,
room.
LA,
LA was small.
LA was in the back like this is.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
But this
Indy had its own
Indy had its
hall, which was perfect because anybody who was waiting in line for Amy Allen and stuff like that, they had no problem. They had the space to wrap them around and move them around.
yeah.
And Ray Park's line never moved that time either. But yeah, I think that would have been different. But again, the layout of the convention.
And to build on that, the interactive stuff. You had the Lego mural, and then you had the Jedi Training Academy, which was right next to another group trying to do a podcast, and it was just the sounds were, competing with each other, and the activities.
It's a busy area. But there are areas that are dead. I agree. It's a very large room that was not used maybe as efficiently as possible. But I like the fact, as compared to LA, I don't have to run from one end of the place to the other to see a collector's panel to get back to the exhibit floor. They're on different floors, but they're right there, and I think that was well done.
I also have to wonder how much dead space there's going to end up being when you add a Saturday crowd as opposed to a Thursday crowd.
Well, I wonder, again, I know the corner that Jonathan was talking about behind the TIE Interceptor model. Just because there's more people there doesn't mean they're going to be standing over there looking at nothing.
That may be overflow, though, to give people places to to sit down and
maybe
There's not even tables or chairs there.
yeah,
There's
I haven't seen past the TIE Fighter because it's so big, which is awesome. It's better than an X-wing or a X-Wing or land speed that we've had in the previous things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's pure awesome. But I just haven't seen it over that area. But I think I know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Right behind it.
And it's not that that's set up for droid races or trooping Olympics or anything like that, because those areas are already set aside.
The Belgium group actually had a prop that they're not able to build, so that might have been in that area. They had some problems that got damaged in shipping.
That would explain the.
But regardless, I mean, it was opening day today, and it was never really crowded on the floor. I mean, the only obstructions you're ever going to run into were lines. I mean, when I was walking around.
And it seemed like several, the vendor area, the actual businesses that are there to conduct business, seem to be kind of on top of each other. There could have been wider aisles if they had just spread everything out a little bit more towards the official store, maybe cut a little bit of that extra space out of the area where it seems like there's seating for people who want to sit down at a table and eat some of the vendor food that's not being purchased anyway. It seems like you're really crammed in when you're trying to browse the actual vendors, the people who are there to sell for a living, as opposed to in the fan club area where there's plenty of space, it seems.
Exclusives. Every booth seems to have an exclusive this year. Hallmark, Hasbro, Gentle Giant, all the ones you'd expect, Cardamundi. Anybody see anything really? I mean, we weren't really surprised, I don't think, by any of the exclusives. There were a couple things we didn't expect to see. Hasbro made available the rocket-firing Boba Fett. If you bought a case of the new figures with the Uggs, which we didn't know they were going to have. So that was a bit of a surprise. Gentle Giant has some of the Comic-Con Stormtroopers.
Very few.
Very few, but...
And they aren't making them available to people with exhibitor badges.
Not until Sunday.
Not until Sunday.
Because they're trying to limit that, and that was, well, maybe they're trying to limit the retailers there from buying them up and then reselling them for 3 times as much once they sell out.
Right, which you can see them on the floor for that price.
Well, and there was already, this morning, the 12-inch vintage scaled-up Boba Fett was sold out very quickly and was on the floor in the afternoon. So,
yes.
How much of a premium?
The one I saw, I think, was 130 or 160 off of a 85?
85.
Yeah, I saw it for 160
price.
at one booth.
Yeah, the Stormtrooper was 162.
That's right. Yeah, and the Stormtrooper was out there already too.
Why don't we go around and say what exclusives we got that we thought were our personal highlights? Jeff?
Yeah, ended up getting the Wave 2 figures from Hasbro, which came with the UGG Obi-Wan, which is what I was looking for.
Then you got your rocket Boba Fett.
And I got my rocket firing Boba Fett. And I ended up picking up both the Cammy Fixer pack and the Bounty Hammers as well.
Anybody else find out anything?
I wanted to get the Hallmark Boba Fett Celebration 5 ornament, but apparently they
Yeah, the Hallmark ornaments weren't in
tomorrow
today.
or the day after.
Yeah, Christine, who's the head of the booth, the rep, she told us last night that they weren't there yesterday, and she wasn't sure if they'd be here today. So what her plan was, today's allotment will be doubled up on Friday, so there'll be enough to make sure that everybody gets them. So she knew that yesterday, and she was trying to tell as many people, so we wouldn't be so shocked today. But there's no way to officially announce it. There's not like a celebration newspaper every morning, so everybody was kind of.
There should be a celebration newspaper.
There's that iPhone app.
We get the app that
We get the iPhone app.
Yeah.
But for those of us without smartphones.
There are probably some
You're in
lessons
the same
learned
boat
on
as
what they
ours
can do with that iPhone
do,
app
you
for
know.
next
It
time.
doesn't.
Well,
I
why
was
do we need
ecstatic.
a newspaper when we have the internet?
That's true.
I can just post it on StarWars.com.
Well, some reason it has a Twitter account.
Oh,
Yeah.
But for a lot of us, our hotels are not giving us internet. So I personally have fallen way behind reading. And, we could be at war. I don't know. I wouldn't know. So we could be at another war, without turning this into a political thing. Okay, so this is only day one. We got 3 more days to go. The Lucas thing is not until Saturday. What are we looking forward to? Mark Hamill.
Starting tomorrow.
Mark Hamill will be here tomorrow.
That's going to be a very long autograph line. Regardless of how they try and manage the line, they can call them in groups of 100. It doesn't matter what your number is going to be. You're going to be in line for a long time. And my number is in the 700s. I know I'm going to be in line for a long time. But at least I go into that, accepting that fact. And
Well,
hopefully nobody's fooling themselves into thinking they're going to be in line for 20 minutes.
I may need to talk to you after the podcast about how the lines are going to work. As I bought my Hamill ticket, I was given the ticket. I was told get an armband from that guy, who reluctantly gave me an armband. I mean, he was busy talking to somebody else. I got the armband. Nobody told me what that armband means, or what I'm supposed to do with it, or when I'm supposed to show up. So I know I can get that answer, but I'm just saying they haven't been abundantly clear on how that system is going to work. And every other autograph I've ever gotten at previous celebrations, if Anthony Daniels, Carrie Fisher, whoever the big star was, the system was always the same. You'd walk up, and you get in the line, and if you could be there first, you waited for 20 minutes. Clearly, with the armbands, it's going to be something different.
Well, I think the armbands are more for the second tier folks, stars that they're expecting lines for. And then they'll call you by number, whichever number's up on the whiteboards that they have out in front of the line. The big stars have the numbered tickets that they're going to call in groups of 100 or something was the last plan that I heard.
So I need to look at my
But
ticket.
you had one for Hamill, right?
Right.
And an armband.
Your Hamill ticket will have a number.
Well, it does have a number.
It
So
does
you
have
will
a
go
number.
by the number on your ticket.
So the armband I shouldn't have.
For Bullock or Mayhew or any of those guys.
When their line gets long enough to need the armband.
I see.
Yeah.
There will be line managers assisting.
I'm sure they'll be very capable official picks line managers.
Let's hope so.
Um,
Maybe our good friend Mike will manage that.
I know there's a couple of them here.
Anything.
And there's a couple of floor managers here. So, and even a team leader. But everybody's jobs are a little bit vague, I think, when you come to volunteering.
I think overall, Official Picks has actually done a better job this year than they have in the past. They finally learned from some of their mistakes. And then having Reed versus Gen Con, I saw somebody talking to one of the staff members. They had people training 2 or 3 days ago, as opposed to the night before or the morning of. So, like, their security staff and not the non-volunteers, they're actually paid local staff, have actually had training before, as opposed to coming in that morning or the night before. So that's made things a lot smoother. And Official Picks is definitely, from what I've seen and what I've heard, smoother.
And I, in the past, haven't had that many problems with official picks. I mean, if there's a lot of people there to get, Ray Park's autograph, there's a lot of people to get his autograph. There's not really much you can do about
They're
that.
actually communicating better. So when you ask an Official Picks volunteer, what's going on, where's this line, where do I go for this? This time they can actually point you in the general direction as opposed to it's in that hall over there.
And not to speak disparagingly about Official Picks, because I really think they brought a fantastic lineup of actors to come and do the signings for this show. I mean, it's a really large group of people that brought the sign. There's a good array of stars.
I agree, and I think they got the memo, or at least they think they got a memo saying that it was Empire Strikes Back 30th anniversary convention.
Yep.
Because they spared no expense to get Bespin Guard number 4. Yet prequel Jedis are very thin on the ground. The usual suspects from the previous celebrations, the Jensen brothers and whatnot. Okay, Amy Allen is here, Orly Shoshone is here, but
Fan favorites.
For whatever reason, fan favorites.
Yes.
Your Tauntaun will freeze before you reach the first marker is here too now because it's
Really?
yes. He's one of the star-studded Empire cast.
So in that way, I applaud them for getting new names. Getting people that we haven't seen before in autographs. I know that Dak, from the DC area, who we've had at our winter social.
Pimp in the DC hat.
Yeah, I mean, he's here, and that's
He's
great.
been wearing his DC hat with pride the entire day.
And I will never have any problem with anybody giving an autograph if they actually spoke a line. And he spoke lines, so that's great.
What about Ray Park? His were dubbed.
Okay, well, then that explains David Prowse, too. So
Who is not here?
we've gotten to the bottom of that mystery.
A speaking part, he never spoke.
But, okay. The collector's panels. They're always sort of a fan favorite. Who went to some of those today?
Interestingly, at Celebration 3, I spent a lot of time at the collector's panels. There were, 6 panels today? Four panels? Four panels. I only saw one. And I went to the vintage collecting panel. As a vintage collector, I didn't know what to expect other than I would probably see a lot of what I already knew. And yet, for as much of the material as I was aware, it was nice to know that I walked out of that room and actually learned something new. I've seen these presentations before. I've interacted with these people online before, and yet they didn't let me walk away empty-handed, essentially. There was a panel that I learned something at, and that, I think, is really the benefit of these collecting panels, is it helps collectors be better collectors. So even somebody who is the veteran collector, regardless of what I consider myself, you still have the opportunity to walk away with some improved knowledge.
I agree, and that's the benefit of the panels that they repeat. I mean, for example, the vintage collection panel you're going to have, that you've got to do that one every 3 years, and you just hope they mix it up.
It's nice that the panel selection we have this year is a lot different. They've added some new things which pique interest and kind of along with the times. One of the last panels, which a bunch of our members are in, is I forget the official name of it, but it's What's the Future Like? And
The end of Star Wars.
The end of Star Wars, yeah. And they're actually going to talk about what's going to happen now that there's no movies and we're going to be going on a TV series and stuff like that. But nobody ever talked about that the last couple celebrations.
And you would have thought that would have been an appropriate panel at C3.
Yeah, that would have been perfect for that. And just the variety of having kind of different focuses, like the vintage panel. There's a lot of information out there, and you learn something new each time. But we could go to the same panel and talk about just the same stuff over and over again, cereal boxes or food collecting items, which there hasn't been a lot new stuff in the market because there's not a movie to promote. But they've always seemed to add stuff and not keep it as stale in the way things have, just repeat of C4, repeat of C3. They took out stuff that's not pertinent and added new stuff.
There's 16 new food items on the market after this celebration here with the giveaways.
Right, we got 4 cereal boxes today, and the big mystery was that every cereal is Cheerios. So
Honey Nut or regular?
Generic, I'm sure. I'm sure they're generic Cheerios. But nonetheless, I mean, I went to one of the panels, and it was not full, which is more like it was at C3, where I thought the collecting panels were a good, relaxing place. You could walk in and out if you were tired of going on the exhibit floor. C4, it became very competitive.
It was giveaway.
It was the giveaway for the medallions.
C4, for sure.
And people were there for that. And you didn't know whether your panel was going to have one or not. And it was not a relaxing, it added to the stress of C4. But today's, I went to the podcasting panel, and it was not, like I said, it was about half full. So if you want what was that cereal? That was the Wookiee Crisp. If you want a Wookiee Crisp box, they probably got some left. They probably didn't give them all away.
I went to 3 of the 4 today. And the podcast was the only one that wasn't full. Vintage, they actually turned away people.
Yes.
And then the prototype one was fairly full. But they're still going to have lots of cereal boxes from those. Even the full ones, they have a few extra. But they were all very good. I learned something new, too. And the only problem with the podcast ones, they didn't mention your podcast.
Well, it's not strictly a collecting podcast. I mean, there are 2 dedicated collecting podcasts out there, so maybe it's C6.
There we go.
We'll have a short form news category. Anybody going to go see Lucas on Saturday, or planning on trying?
I won a ticket to one of our DC raffle, so I will be seeing it in one of the digital theaters.
I'm gonna plan. I think I'm planning still to go. I'm still trying to decide what my strategy is. How early? When they first announced it, I said, "Oh, I definitely want to see him in person." And then I thought back. Well, I went, for example, to the opening ceremony at C4, and I was in the exhibit hall, and I still watched it on one of the side screens because I was far enough away, so that if you're not actually going to get to meet the guy, what's the difference between actually seeing him in person and seeing him on a screen?
Well, I mean, I find it odd that there's. I mean, I guess I understand that there's a lot of competition to get into the main theater to see it, live with him there in front of you, but to get the overflow that they're talking about into every. I mean, the fact that people are going to be camping out overnight to get in to watch it on a closed circuit TV in another room, I find a little odd, especially since it'll probably be available for download. If not that day, soon enough. One thing that I learned in my semi-official capacity of working the registration desk the other night, they do intend to show the main event on every TV in the hall. So even the ones in the hallways by the registration booths and everywhere, it will be. You can stand there and watch it like, the Orwellian presentation that it is. So bear that in mind.
Did anybody notice that today? Because that was one of the first things they said, because the Force of the Fets was the first celebration stage show. They said it was being simulcast on every TV in the convention center. Did anybody look up at like 1:30 and see it?
No, there are no TV screens in the exhibit hall.
Yeah,
No, but they're
in the
outside.
exhibit
Right.
hall all day.
Most of us were at the exhibit hall,
Or
passing
collector
out swag, or collector panels today,
Or just
Because-
passing out.
because there was AC in there.
Okay, so anybody have anything else, or we will wrap this up as we hit the half-hour mark.
I gotta say, one of the things I'm most impressed with the R2 Builders Room.
Okay,
That's definitely a must see.
what are they at? Obviously, they're building R2s in there, but
Well, they've got a ton of R2s, but they've got a bunch of Hoff environments too. They've got like R2 and 3PO set up with the trapdoor with the Wampas behind it. They've got a photo op with R2 and 3PO at the other end. They got a Dagobah R2 that one guy's pretty much just trashed his R2 by painting it to look like he just came out of the swamp. Got the hangar bay with like a projection of ships coming and going outside the hangar bay. So it's really, really well done.
I mean, and that's another sort of activity that's sort of off the beaten path that, probably a lot of people don't check out I mean, I know I haven't in the prior cons. It's probably a neat thing to go look at. I know they've got a room set up that's just Lucas Arts video games. I think it's, I don't know if it's every Lucas Arts video game ever or just the ones that are currently out there, but, if you don't play enough Xbox at home, you can come here and play Xbox for $130. But the ice bar, I went by the ice bar today. That was okay. Yeah, the quesadillas are $7 or $9 or whatever they are, and apparently they sold out of nachos. But it was they made an effort to make an interest, to turn a snack bar into something interesting. And you got a guy walking around in a Wampa outfit, and that's a neat sort of thing.
The nice aspect about the size of this convention center compared to LA is when you walk out of the main hall by the escalators, you can go to the R2 Builders Room, which takes up the whole side of the top, and the other side, I think, is the 501st room.
Yeah.
So the aspect of, for if you want to go see something, you want to go to a specific area and you're trying to meet up with people, I'll be on this side, you be over here, we can meet up in the middle, or like, I've seen a lot of families where dad and kid go to R2, mom and kid go to 501st. But because of the central location, everything seems to be closer. It's more logistically better, I think, for the aspect of it. Yeah, I went to the R2 room today, and I spent 15 minutes in there, but I could have clearly spent hours in there just looking at the various things, and it was definitely worth going back and checking out. So,
And we've got 3 more days to do that. So, you think you saw it all in one day. I know. I thought, after going to the Hasbro booth and the Gentle Giant booth and looking at my watch, and it was 11:15, I said, "Well, I'm done." Well, I really thought, well, I walked the exhibit hall, I'm done. But next thing I knew, it was the end of the day, and I've already got a list of stuff to do tomorrow. So, I think generally speaking, it's been pretty well run. Let's just, anybody have anything else to pipe on or differing
I think
opinions?
As the weekend goes on, Frank DeLorio's Hoth diorama
Yes.
is going to take on a life of its own, and his dioramas never fail to impress. He does a fantastic job. He's a master diorama builder, and it's going to become an expansive Hoth world, and it's just going to be amazing to look at in the end. So
It's a big area.
It's a huge area, and there's a lot of styrofoam to cut and glue over there. So
the Ewok Village set up at Celebration 4, the pictures don't do it justice. You really have to go see the talent that these fans of all ages did. But I can't wait to see the Hoth one because it's just the size of it is bigger than the indoor village. So.
By several times.
Yeah.
At Hasbro's booth.
The Hasbro's booth.
Their dioramas, granted, made by master builders, of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal,
but they're just the size of a really big fish tank.
Yes.
And
the Bespin freezing chamber was just unreal. So I couldn't say enough nice things.
No, there are a number of websites, I'm sure, that have a lot of these pictures already posted, and recommend you go take a look at them. There's a lot to see here, and I think it's pretty good. Well, I want to thank everybody for helping out tonight. Maybe we'll be able to get to do it again one more night. I know the Disney event is still yet to come, and obviously the main event. So there's going to be plenty to talk about.
So be it.
And so that is where we wrapped it up tonight with our guests. I'd like to thank again the members of the DC Star Wars Collectors Club for coming out and helping to share their experiences and perhaps enlighten those of you who have not able, for whatever reason, to attend Celebration 5. It's a great show so far, one day in, and hopefully the 3 remaining days will live up to the first. We will try to keep you posted here with another roundtable discussion in the next day or so. So keep your eyes out, and then we will return to our normal broadcast schedule next week and discover the joys of a weekly Star Wars news podcast without an impending celebration. As always, you can check thisweekinstarwars.com for more news and information about the show and about Star Wars in general. You can email me at host@thisweekinstarwars.com or post a comment on our Facebook page. And as always, we troll the web and prowl the convention floor so you don't have to.
This Week in Star Wars is not affiliated with Lucasfilm, its subsidiaries, or any other entity mentioned in this podcast. Star Wars, its characters, and creations are the property of Lucasfilm. All other trademarks are property of their respective trademark owners. This Week in Star Wars is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is copyright 2010 This Week in Star Wars. Invaluable technical assistance provided by WebStorm Interactive. News, comments, and questions can be directed to host at thisweekinstarwars.com. More information, links to stories presented, past episodes, and additional contact information are available at www.thisweekinstarwars.com.
It was so bizarrely dreadful.